Somewhere out there, beyond the last blinking satellite, and the edge of what most people call reality, there are stories. Stories never meant to be found. Whispered between stars. Smuggled across black holes. Buried in laughter, chaos, and maybe just maybe truth. Here on Galactic Conundrums, we don't just tell sci-fi stories. We invite you to wonder. Could there really be a man who juggles warships for fun? A fugitive princess who finds hope in the most unpredictable, most ridiculous hero? A child whose laughter might be the last pure sound left in the galaxy? What if these tales aren't fiction at all? Before we begin today's story, ask yourself, what if the impossible is just poorly documented? If that made you smile, or question your place in the stars, you're in the right place. So don't forget, like, share, and subscribe. And one more thing. Drop a comment below. What would you do if an alien princess begged for protection and offered to become your concubine? Alright. Let's begin. Far beyond the stars, on the edge of charted space, floats the swirling amber skies of Zeta 9, a planet that smells like burned cinnamon and sounds like 1,000 aliens arguing over the last donut in the universe. Here lies the Galactic Bazaar, a colossal marketplace that pulses with life, noise, and far too many smells to be comfortable. Strange beasts lounge in hover stalls, trading memories for candy. Vendors shout in 50 dialects, trying to sell anti-gravity socks, time-slowing spices, and mood-sensitive wigs. Everything glows, blinks, or growls. Nothing is quiet. Wandering through this chaos is a man, or perhaps just the shape of one known only as Jax Orion. His coat hangs in shreds, as if he once wrestled a sandstorm and lost. His beard is more nest than hair, home to a civilization of possibly extinct crumbs. His boots squelch with every step, leaving behind faint traces of glittery mud and mystery. Most passers-by ignore him, assuming he's just another vagrant too proud or too weird to beg. But Jax is not what he seems. Beneath the dirt, the slouch, and the faint smell of space-fried cheese, lies something other. Something ancient. Something absurdly powerful. Jax doesn't come here to trade. He's not looking for treasure, or trouble, though the latter has a habit of finding him anyway. He's been on Zeta 9 for a week now, pretending to be homeless, playing guess what this fruit does with suspicious melons, and avoiding direct eye contact with fortune-telling slugs. And he is bored to death. You see, Jax Orion has a problem. Not the kind most wanderers have. He doesn't owe money to a slug lord. He's not being chased by assassins. His problem is far worse. Everything is just too easy. He's defeated pirate fleets using only a spoon. Escaped black holes while whistling. He once won an argument with a god by quoting bathroom poetry. For a man like him, the galaxy offers no thrill, No challenge, just endless, effortless victories wrapped in mild inconvenience. And so, he walks the marketplace like a ghost with a sense of humor, hoping, praying, for something interesting to finally happen. Passing a stall that sells telepathic pineapples, Jax mutters under his breath, "Maybe I should have tried being a space mime. At least then I'd have an excuse not to talk to people." A vendor gives him a wary glance. The pineapple sneezes. But then something in the air shifts. It's subtle. A ripple in the atmosphere. The kind of silence that only happens right before chaos kicks in the door. Jax pauses. He lifts his head. A crooked smile forms on his cracked lips. Something's coming. Something fun. Near the center of the chaotic Zeta 9 marketplace, where neon smoke curled lazily around sizzling food carts and a robotic opera singer was mid-scream in C-sharp, something unusual stirred the air. It wasn't the smell, although the fried glowworms were certainly offensive enough. No. It was the stillness. A pocket of silence within the usual madness, like the universe holding its breath for just one absurd moment. Jax Orion's gaze slid toward the source like a cat catching scent of a laser pointer. There, beside a stall selling emotionally supportive eels, stood a woman. But not just any woman. Her skin shimmered like polished sapphire under the twin suns, glowing faintly as though lit from within. Her long pink hair flowed like living silk down her back, clashing beautifully with the grimy alley she now stood in. And beside her, clutching the edge of her gown, was a small child with glowing eyes and a curious expression far too calm for someone her age in the presence of danger. Danger, in this case, came wrapped in patchy armor and too many limbs. A circle of mercenaries surrounded the pair, a ragtag group of bounty hunters with breath like burned batteries and faces only a mother could disown. The leader, a thick-set brute with a face like a collapsed moon crater, hissed through his cracked respirator. "Come now, Princess Lyra of Vania. You know the bounty. Hand over the girl, and maybe we'll let you keep your legs." The princess did not flinch. Her posture was regal, chin lifted, arms around her daughter like living armor. Her voice, when it came, was colder than asteroid ice. "Touch her, and I'll feed your bones to my gardener." One of the mercenaries cackled, drawing a blaster, the universal sign for poor decision-making. That was when Jax Orion finally moved. Slowly. Deliberately. He stepped forward, scratching his beard like a man who had just woken up from a nap inside a starship engine. "Hey," he slurred, voice echoing through the tense silence, "is this the line for free hugs? 'Cause I've got some real premium awkward energy to offer." The mercenaries blinked. Then laughed. The kind of laugh only stupid men make right before something deeply regrettable happens. "Buzz off, Grandpa," one sneered. "This ain't your problem." Jax tilted his head. No, see, that's where you're wrong. I've got this rule: if someone's dumb enough to point a blaster at a child, I'm legally obligated to make them reconsider their life choices. He raised his hands. I'll make this sporting. 3 seconds. No weapons. Just hands. Let's see if I still got it. The leader rolled his eyes. You wanna die fast? Fine. He raised his weapon. 3, 2, 1. Time, for everyone else, seemed to pause. But not for Jax. In a blur that defied physics, logic, and basic common sense, Jax moved. His hands became streaks of motion, a whirlwind of elbows, palms, and improbable ballet. One mercenary flew through the air like a sack of potatoes with bad insurance. Another crumpled with a noise that sounded suspiciously like a squeaky toy. One poor soul was disarmed literally before he hit the ground in a daze. Princess Lyra blinked once. The child giggled. Jax stood in the middle of the aftermath, casually plucking a piece of fried tentacle from a nearby stall. He sniffed it, grimaced, tossed it over his shoulder. He muttered, wiping his hands on his coat. That was easier than expected. Maybe I should have tried it blindfolded. He glanced at the princess and offered her a crooked smile. Need a hand, Blue? Or was that just your warm-up? Lyra opened her mouth, closed it, then frowned, clearly trying to decide if he was a savior, a lunatic, or just very persistent background noise. Nova, the child, peeked out from behind her mother's leg and whispered, eyes wide. Mom, is he a superhero? Lyra answered without looking away from the strange, grinning man. No, darling. He's something much worse. Do you enjoy this story? Do you think their journey has only just begun, or is there so much more waiting for them out there? Leave your comment below. Galactic Conundrums always wants to hear your thoughts. Let's keep the story going. The dust hadn't even settled from the last body hitting the ground when Lyra Vania took a shaky breath. Her sapphire skin gleamed under the market's chaotic lights, a glow made more intense by adrenaline and desperation. The once proud princess, now a fugitive wrapped in torn silk and stubborn dignity, stood inches from the man who had just dismantled her would-be captors like they were misbehaving furniture. She reached out, her voice low, trembling not with fear, but with the weight of surrender. Please, she said, swallowing pride like a bitter pill, help us. I can be your concubine if that's what it takes. A long pause followed. The market seemed to hold its breath again, though a nearby fruit vendor was still screaming at a lobster-shaped pickpocket. Jax blinked. He tilted his head. Then, slowly, very slowly, he laughed. Not a mocking laugh, but something far worse, the kind of laugh that suggested the universe had just told him a private joke. A concubine, he said, raising one eyebrow and brushing a glob of alien jelly from his sleeve. That's your big offer? He pointed vaguely at the space around them. Blue, I just beat up an entire gang of professional mercs with my lunch hand. That was barely a stretch. And your plan is, bribery by awkward romance. Lyra's face darkened with offense, her back stiffening. I am the crown jewel of House Vania. I have been courted by solar princes, rebel captains, and one sentient cloud that composed love sonnets in my honor. Jax held up a finger. Yeah, that last one sounds more romantic than you. He looked past her, thoughtful, as if weighing invisible cosmic scales. Tell you what, he said, cracking his knuckles and letting a faint golden shimmer pulse across the back of his hand. I'll help you. But only using, he squinted, doing fake math in the air, 5% of my power. Nova, still clutching her mother's sleeve, frowned and whispered, Is that a lot? Jax grinned at the child. Oh no, kid. It's barely enough to cook toast. Before Lyra could respond indignantly or gratefully or possibly both, a shriek of warning echoed through the market. A towering hologram shimmered into life above the plaza, the imperial crest, spinning slowly like a hungry eye. It cast long red shadows across everything. Panic spread like spilled ink through the crowd. Sirens screamed. Vendors ducked. Mech drones buzzed from rooftop perches. And then they came. Imperial troopers in obsidian white armor flooded the street from all sides. Boots thudded in unison. Blasters snapped into place. The ground shook slightly, though it might have just been the tremor of someone's third bowl of fried worm rice falling over in fear. A mechanized voice boomed. Fugitive identified, Lyra Vania. And her offspring. By order of His Galactic Majesty, surrender immediately. Lyra spun toward Jax. Do something. Jax yawned, then stretched like someone waking from a nap on a flaming asteroid. You want me to go full power already? But we just met. He cracked his neck, then leaned sideways toward Nova. All right, kiddo. Time for a new game. I call this one, How many soldiers can I disarm before my tea gets cold? He took a step forward. His eyes gleamed faintly, not with fury, not even with excitement, but with something far more dangerous. Amusement. The Empire had arrived. And to their great misfortune, Jax Orion was in the mood to play. The first blaster bolt hit a fruit stand, vaporizing a pile of singing pears mid-chorus. Screams followed, sharp, frantic, and entirely justified as the marketplace descended into chaos. Robotic stall vendors activated emergency protocols, which mostly involved shouting "Not my problem" in 6 languages before rolling away on tiny wheels. A 3-eyed bar dove into a vat of soup. Somewhere, a goat-shaped alien began headbutting a ticket machine. Jax Orion stood very still. His fingers twitched once, like a piano player warming up before a concerto. All right, he muttered, cracking his neck. New challenge, defend royalty, protect small child, and stay in one spot. Feet don't move. Let's spice things up. Lyra blinked. Wait, what? But it was too late. The first wave of troopers had already reached them. They came in fast and organized, a wall of gleaming armor and whirring tech, the kind of people who didn't smile unless ordered to by a command algorithm. Blasters hummed, rifles locked in. Every barrel pointed at Jax. He smiled. And then he moved, or rather, didn't. Jax remained rooted to the cobbled metal ground, feet planted like holy monuments, while the rest of him became a blur. His arms spun, twisted, flicked a storm of perfectly timed chaos. Blaster bolts pinged against his palms and wrists, bouncing back like lazy fireflies, ricocheting into helmets and knees and one very unfortunate drone. A trooper lunged forward with a stun baton. Jax caught it between two fingers, shrugged, and casually twisted it into something that resembled modern art. "Next time," he said calmly, "bring knitting needles. At least that would be entertaining." Lyra ducked as an explosion sent sparks flying overhead. "You said your feet wouldn't move," she yelled. "Exactly," Jax called back. "See? Integrity." Nova peeked out from under Lyra's cloak and clapped. "Do it again, Mr. Jax." "See? She gets it," Jax beamed, mid-spin kick that disarmed 3 men at once. But then came the next wave, larger, heavier, uglier. They rode on mechanical wolves with plasma fangs and really bad attitudes. One even had flame decals. You know they are serious when they bring flame decals. "Okay," Jax muttered, eyes narrowing. "Time to bend the rules just a smidge." With a burst of motion, he finally moved his feet, hopping backward, just one graceful arc, landing squarely on top of a passing fish cart, which immediately rolled downhill. "All right, ladies," he shouted, wobbling as the cart sped up. "Plan B." "What's Plan B?" Lyra yelled as she pulled Nova close and started running. "We improvise." The chase ignited like a comet through the market. Jax surfed the runaway cart like a drunken ballerina, leaning side to side as troopers tried and failed to follow. He plucked bottles from a spice stand as he passed and hurled them like colorful grenades. Explosions of cinnamon, ghost pepper dust, and something that smelled suspiciously like regret filled the air. Lyra ran behind him, dodging stunned troopers, collapsing tents, and one elderly alien who threw tofu bricks in protest. Ahead, the docking bay, the only escape off the planet. Blocked. A sleek Imperial blockade ship had landed, its gleaming hull humming with menace. Rows of troops lined the landing zone. Guns, drones, shields. The whole parade. Lyra skidded to a halt. "We'll never make it through that." Jax, still rolling in hot on the fish cart, grinned like a lunatic. "Never say never. Say something more optimistic, like, 'Oh wow, I didn't expect this much fun before lunch.'" He leapt off the cart mid-roll, landing beside an unattended ship, sharp-edged, smooth-winged, clearly expensive, and very, very stolen-looking. "New plan," he announced, slapping the hull. "Steal this yacht. Escape the blockade. And do it while reciting bad poetry." Lyra blinked. You're insane. Finally, Jax said, hands already flying over the boarding panel, we agree on something. Do you enjoy this story? Do you think their journey has only just begun, or is there so much more waiting for them out there? Leave your comment below. Galactic Conundrums always wants to hear your thoughts. Let's keep the story going. The stolen yacht groaned as it lifted off the landing pad, engines roaring like a caffeinated dragon. Behind them, the marketplace of Zeta 9 shrank rapidly, a swirling mass of color, chaos, and now, fire. Possibly from the exploding tofu stand, possibly not. Inside the cockpit, Lyra Vania gripped her seat with both hands. Her knuckles turned a shade paler than her usual regal blue. Beside her, Nova giggled, utterly unfazed. And at the controls, feet up on the dashboard, piloting with his elbows, was Jax Orion, grinning like someone who had just stolen a star and dared it to explode. "All right, kid," he said, glancing at Nova. "You ready for level 2? Yay!" Nova cheered, kicking her feet excitedly. Lyra turned sharply. "What do you mean level 2? We're being chased by an Imperial squadron." Jax nodded. "Exactly. The perfect time for a game." He pressed a random assortment of buttons with his nose, somehow engaging stealth mode, hyperspace buffers, and a setting labeled salsa music, max volume. "Here's how it works," Jax explained, now steering with only one hand. "Each time we survive something insane, I have to complete a self-imposed challenge. Rules: no dying, no boring solutions, and we all have to agree it was cool." "This is madness," Lyra hissed. "Madness," Jax said solemnly, "is just logic dressed in glitter." Suddenly, the ship lurched as a volley of plasma fire clipped their wing. Outside, 3 sleek Imperial interceptors closed in, their cannons glowing like angry fireflies. Sirens wailed inside the cockpit. Lyra braced herself for evasive maneuvers. Instead, Jax flipped the ship upside down. Completely upside down. "All right, challenge 1, he called over his shoulder. "Escape an ambush while flying inverted and narrating everything like a children's story." He cleared his throat theatrically. "Once upon a time, 3 angry space bullies decided to ruin our road trip. But little did they know, the grumpy space uncle had elbows of destiny." Pew pew. He deflected 2 laser blasts by flipping the ship mid-roll. And a very questionable sense of direction. Nova clapped in delight. Lyra dry heaved into a snack pouch. One of the enemy ships exploded in a spiral of pink smoke. Jax gave it a little finger wave. "Bye-bye, Space Karen." A second volley tore through space. Jax jerked the controls with his knees, bounced the ship off an asteroid fragment, and somehow landed them inside a debris cloud, hidden. "Challenge 2, he declared. "Sabotage a star destroyer, using only dance." Before Lyra could scream what, Jax was already up, handing the flight controls to Nova, who squealed with joy and sprinting to the back of the ship. Within minutes, they docked badly but efficiently onto the belly of a patrol-class destroyer. Jax exited the airlock with a speaker strapped to his chest, blaring galactic techno. The guards outside didn't even know how to react before he began interpretive dancing his way through their systems. Security droids short-circuit in confusion. Hallway turrets deactivated out of sheer embarrassment. Nova watched from the monitors, bouncing in her seat. "Mommy, he's like a really weird superhero." Lyra rubbed her temples. "He's not a superhero. He's a walking glitch in the universe." Moments later, the destroyer's engines shut down on their own. Lights flickered. Alarms beeped apologetically. Jax returned, drenched in sweat and holding a stolen sandwich. "Mission complete," he gasped. Also, someone in the cafeteria was making really good soup. Hours passed. From asteroid fields to gravity wells, from ancient wreckage to floating marketplaces shaped like musical instruments, the trio drifted across the stars. And with each encounter, no matter how absurd, Jax added a new rule, a new dare, a new impossible twist. Fighting bounty hunters on a swamp moon while hopping on one leg. Escaping a collapsing mine using only a spoon, duct tape, and a very confused pigeon bot. Piloting through a wormhole while blindfolded and composing haikus. Space bends, time sneezes. Hope fits in a sandwich wrap. Also, I'm dizzy. Lyra watched it all unfold with a strange mix of horror and fascination. Nova adored every second. Jax? Jax was finally having fun. The stars above the desert moon flickered like tired candles, barely visible through the haze of twin moons. Everything was still except for the faint hum of the yacht's cooling engines and the distant sound of some animal coughing melodramatically in the dunes. They had made camp just outside the ship, nestled between jagged rocks and a dying alien cactus that smelled faintly of sour candy. Nova was already asleep, curled up inside a blanket nest made of stolen royal silks and suspiciously lumpy space pillows. Her tiny snores drifted into the stillness like whispers from another world. Lyra sat nearby, arms wrapped around her knees. The fire crackled between her and Jax, an awkward, flickering barrier neither of them dared to cross. For once, he wasn't juggling grenades or narrating battles in haiku. He just sat there, quiet. Too quiet. Which, coming from Jax Orion, was downright unsettling. She glanced at him. The fire painted shifting gold across his face, catching in the sharp lines of his jaw and the shadowed corners of his eyes. He looked older, somehow. Or maybe just tired. "Why do you do it?" she asked softly. He didn't respond at first. Instead, he picked up a glowing ember on a metal stick and tried half-heartedly to juggle it with his toes. He yelped when it burned him, cursed under his breath, and flicked it into the sand. Then, with a sigh, he leaned back on his elbows and stared up at the sky. Do what? Be devastatingly handsome and chronically misunderstood. No, Lyra said, eyes narrowing. The stunts. The nonsense. The constant jokes. You clearly don't need to try. You're powerful. Scarily so. You could rule planets. Or destroy them. So why, this? A long silence. Jax's grin faltered. Not all at once. Just slightly, like a mask sliding an inch too far. Because if I don't keep things ridiculous, he said slowly, voice quieter than usual, then all I'm left with is the truth. And the truth's a real buzzkill. He poked at the fire with a stick. Sparks leapt, danced, faded. Once upon a time, he began, in a voice that was trying and failing to be flippant. There was a kid. Small, scrawny. Raised on a rock nobody cared about. Every day, he watched people stronger than him take what they wanted. Hurt who they wanted. And he couldn't do anything but watch. Lyra didn't speak. But he wasn't afraid. Jax went on. Not once. Anger sure. Helplessness definitely. But never fear. Fear is when you still think you can lose something. But he had nothing left to lose. He paused. His fingers rubbed at his palms absently, as if remembering something painful that had no visible scar. So he made a wish. Not to be rich. Not to be loved. Just to never be powerless again. And Lyra asked, her voice barely a whisper. Wish granted, Jax said simply. He smiled, but it was wrong. A smile with no joy. Like someone who remembered how but had forgotten why. I got what I wanted. I became strong. Unbeatable. I cracked stars open and made void beasts tap out. And then, it all just got quiet. Lyra's gaze softened. She looked at him not as a reckless maniac, but as someone, broken beautifully. What about Nova? She asked. You seem to care for her? Nova's different, Jax said, his voice regaining a flicker of warmth. She laughs. Wholeheartedly. With her entire being. You know how rare that is in this galaxy. He stared into the fire, eyes reflecting ancient exhaustion. Her laugh reminds me that maybe, just maybe, I'm not as hollow as I feel. Lyra hesitated, then reached out slowly and rested her hand on his. The touch was small. Gentle. Human. Alien. Real. He didn't pull away. You're not hollow, she said. You're haunted. Jax chuckled, the sound raw and real. Poetic. I like it. Sounds like a line from a bad space opera. A beat. Want a haiku? He offered, his grin slowly returning crooked, hopeful. I'm scared, Lyra muttered. Too late. He cleared his throat dramatically. Stars whisper secrets. Fire burns but won't judge me. Also, I have gas. Lyra choked on a laugh. Jax looked sideways at her, mock serious. What? That last line's metaphorical. Very deep. You're a disaster, she said, smiling for the first time in days. I'm your disaster now, Blue. For a moment, they sat there between firelight and starlight, memory and mayhem, and in the hush between jokes and sorrow, something delicate began to take root. Not love. Not yet. But perhaps. The first spark of trust. The stars were dimmed. Not by distance or dusk, but by steel, an endless wall of Imperial warships forming a noose around the sector. Dozens of star cruisers floated in grim silence, their cannons locked on the little speck drifting at their center. That speck was a stolen yacht. Inside, Jax Orion was humming off-key while doing warm-up stretches. Nearby, Lyra Vania stared at him like someone trying to decide whether to kiss a man or strangle him with her royal sash. Nova was drawing googly eyes on a holographic map of the enemy fleet. You're serious? Lyra asked for the third time. Deadly, Jax replied, doing lunges in zero gravity. Which is ironic, because nobody's dying today. He popped upright and clapped his hands. All right, plan recap. Step 1, hijack the Imperial network. Step 2, public broadcast. Step 3, troll them so hard they can't even shoot straight. Lyra raised an elegant, disbelieving brow. And you expect me to just stand there and deliver a revolutionary speech in front of the entire Galactic Empire? Exactly. Jax beamed. Look, they expect explosions. Laser fire. Drama. What they are not expecting is dignity, sass, and a well-placed slideshow. He turned serious as a man wearing one boot and juggling a wrench can look. Lyra, they silenced your voice for too long. You're not just a fugitive. You're a symbol. A beat. He added. Also, I hacked all their screens to show your face in exactly 43 seconds. So you better warm up that queen voice. Lyra stared. Then sighed. You're impossible. Nope, Jax grinned. Just statistically improbable. 43 seconds later, the entire Imperial Armada's internal systems flickered. Command decks. Soldier helmets. Propaganda towers on distant planets. All screens went dark, then blinked on, revealing a live feed of Lyra Vania standing tall, bathed in starlight, a single strand of pink hair drifting like a banner. She spoke. Her voice, calm and cutting, cut through the void like a blade through smoke. People of the stars. I am Lyra Vania, daughter of a dead crown, mother of a child hunted for existing, and survivor of every trap this rotten empire set for me. You fear truth, so you silence it. You hoard power, so none can stand against you. Well, I stand. Behind her, Jax gave a discreet thumbs up and quietly queued up epic speech music on the sound system. We don't need your thrones. We don't want your chains. We will build a galaxy where power doesn't mean cruelty, and where my daughter can laugh without looking over her shoulder. So send your ships. Send your fire. Or, she smiled, send your resignation letters. We'll wait. And with that the signal cut. For 2 full seconds, the galaxy froze. Then, absolute bedlam. Alarms blared. Officers shouted. One admiral dropped his coffee. And then all the ship's systems went haywire. Because Jax, bless his lunatic soul, had embedded a virus disguised as a cooking tutorial into the fleet's shared network. It activated right on cue. Suddenly, every console, screen, and HUD displayed the Emperor, dancing. Animated. Shirtless. With sequins. He twirled, smiled awkwardly, and declared in high-pitched audio, I resign as Emperor. I shall pursue my dream of interpretive dance. Please clap. Crew members across the fleet fell into chaos. Laughter. Panic. A few wept openly. One destroyer turned on its neighbor, accidentally firing in confusion. On the yacht, Lyra blinked. Did you plan this? Jax, watching the spectacle with gleaming eyes, whispered reverently. I planned the weirdest timeline possible. Now, he said, cracking his knuckles, let's add sprinkles. He launched the yacht forward right through the heart of the armada. Lyra grabbed Nova and strapped in. This is insane, she shouted. Yup. Jax grinned. Challenge time. Escape through a collapsing war fleet while steering only with my eyebrows. What? But he was already doing it. The ship dove, spun, wove through blasts and debris. Jax's face contorted like a mime at a chili cook-off, tilting left, right, up, and somehow, the ship obeyed. Behind them, the Empire burned. Not in fire but in humiliation. As the last cruiser exploded, thanks to a potato-themed override virus Jax slipped in, Lyra sat in stunned silence. Nova giggled. Again. Again. Jax leaned back, exhaling deeply. Well, Blue, he said. That was our grand finale. What do you think? Lyra looked at him, eyes unreadable. I think, she murmured, you just started a revolution, using dance, satire, and forward muscles. Jax winked. You're welcome. Somewhere on the edge of the known galaxy far from blaster fire, bounty hunters, and dancing emperors there is a planet that doesn't appear on most maps. It's quiet. Mostly. Twin suns rise slowly over fields of floating coral trees. The wind hums in odd tones, like someone gently tuning a forgotten instrument. The grass glows faintly when walked upon, and once a week, it rains upward for no clear reason. This is home now. A crooked little house stands near a cliff's edge, stitched together from parts of 7 stolen ships, 2 vending machines, and what might have once been a royal yacht sauna. Smoke curls from its chimneys in the shape of question marks. Wind chimes made of broken blaster parts clink softly in the breeze. Inside, chaos. Good chaos. Nova zips through the hallway wearing a makeshift jetpack built from juice cans and duct tape. One of the support beams is now her art wall, currently covered in finger-painted space whales and a portrait of Jax with laser eyes. From the kitchen, something explodes not dangerously, just enthusiastically. Lyra sighs from the porch. Jax. Did you reprogram the oven again? Technically, it reprogrammed me, he shouts back. I think we're in a relationship now. Lyra rolls her eyes, but there's a smile tugging at the corner of her lips. She looks out over the glowing horizon, a breeze catching in her hair. Peaceful. Wild. Real. Jax joins her, barefoot, shirt half-buttoned, chewing what looks like a blue mushroom but is apparently legally classified as a spicy fruit-adjacent snack. So, he says, scale of 1 to 10, how bad was that space revolution? You made the Emperor retire to become a performance artist, Lyra replies. We're still getting hate mail from his fan club. Jax grins proudly. Best Tuesday ever. They sit together, silence settling in. Not awkward. Not heavy. Just calm. Jax stretches out, watching Nova somersault across the grass. You know, he murmurs, for the first time in, I don't know, forever. I'm not itching for the next ridiculous challenge. Lyra raises an eyebrow. Really? Well, he adds, except maybe figuring out how to make the toaster stop quoting ancient prophecies. She laughs, really laughs, and the sound is like sunlight finding a crack in the old walls of the world. Years pass. The house grows. So does the family. First came Zara, sharp-eyed and blue-skinned like her mother, but with Jax's chaotic soul. She rewired the house's plumbing system to create a personal waterfall, at age 4. Then the twins, Nova, and Orion, pranksters, inventors, conspirators. Their bonding rituals involve gravity reversals and droid rebellions. Every day is a mess. Every night ends in stargazing on the roof, where the family lies in a heap of blankets and half-eaten alien snacks, pointing out constellations that may or may not be real. And Jax? He still juggles fruit in zero-G. He still sets off the occasional explosion. But something's changed. He listens more. He holds longer. He no longer laughs just to fill the silence but because, here, surrounded by light and love and ridiculous space furniture, he finally understands what it means to be whole. One evening, as the suns melt into the sea of clouds, Lyra leans into Jax's shoulder. Still craving danger, she teases. Jax watches their kids launching water balloons with a makeshift catapult toward an angry, sentient cactus. Oh, this, he smirks. This is the hardest mission I've ever taken. Lyra smiles. Why? Because here, he says, turning to her, I could actually lose something that matters. She takes his hand. And for the first time since stars began burning in his soul, Jack's Orion lets himself be still. Across the sky, a single star streaked by, leaving behind a flash of light like a quiet promise. Not all heroes wear capes. Some wear mismatched boots, stir up chaos, and find peace in the laughter of a child. And so, a mad wanderer, a runaway princess, and a laughing child build a home not from steel or crowns, but from trust, chaos, and late-night sky watching. No, it wasn't perfect. But maybe that's what made it real. Somewhere out there, they are still flying, dodging gravity storms, breaking toaster AI uprisings, juggling life one impossible challenge at a time. Maybe, if you look up tonight, you'll see a flash across the stars. Was it just a meteor? Or was it Jack's Orion, making a sharp turn while teaching Nova how to pilot with her eyes closed? We may never know. But if you ask me, the galaxy's never been the same since he arrived. What do you think really happened? Was it all a story? A cosmic myth passed between traders and travelers? Or could Jax, Lyra, and Nova still be out there, saving the universe one awkward haiku at a time? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want more stories like this, wild, weird, maybe a little too real, you know what to do. Until next time, Space Cadets, keep your curiosity strong, keep your socks gravity-proof, and always, always, trust the strange ones.